I've managed over 100 million in ad spend over hundreds of brands. And here is what shocked me. Most B2B companies aren't failing because they chose the wrong agency or contractor. They're failing because they don't have what every successful brand building pipeline online has: a senior marketing leader who actually cares about their results. See, I learned this the hard way. After working with hundreds of brands, I'd watch campaigns fail using the exact same playbook each time. That generated millions for other clients. What separated the winners from the losers wasn't better tactics. It was having a senior marketing leader who understood strategy. And that's exactly the problem most companies face. You can't outsource a strategy you don't have, and you can't scale a funnel that doesn't exist. And you definitely can't just outspend a broken system. If you're a B2B service company doing over 1 million in revenue and you know digital marketing should be working for you, but you're just not sure why it isn't, then this is exactly what you need to hear. If you're tired of hoping your sales team can prospect their way to predictable growth, and if you want someone who understands what actually works to finally build it right, well, this will change everything for you. Because here's your reality check. You're sitting in another quarterly meeting explaining why the pipeline still isn't acceptable, why it's not where you want it to be. Maybe you tried hiring an agency, but you couldn't tell if their strategy was brilliant or terrible because you don't have the experience to vet them. Or maybe you brought someone in-house, but they're still learning, or they don't have a seat at the senior table, and your competitors are taking this and running away with it. You're stuck there paying for a sales team, but you're still not hitting growth targets because your team isn't bringing in new leads consistently. You see all these success stories online, all these simple frameworks, but when you try to implement them, it doesn't quite work. Marketing is not as simple as those 3-step LinkedIn posts you'll probably see. I might even post one myself. But you don't need to understand every tactic as the CEO or founder. You just need to know someone who does, who you can trust. And here's what makes me different. I've spent over 10 years on the agency side, working with hundreds of clients, and I've been a 7-figure business owner myself, sitting in your exact seat. I know what it's like to write the checks and wonder if they're working. I also know exactly how to build the systems that actually generates predictable revenue. So instead of being another vendor you have to manage, I embed as your fractional marketing lead. So you finally have someone accountable for results, not just activity. We will implement our proven LeadGenOS system so you get consistent prospects every week without wondering if this month's marketing will work. I coach your team so they actually know what they're doing when it comes to online lead generation, and you get access to my network of vetted specialists so you never have to guess if you're hiring the right person again. Bottom line, you get predictable growth without the headaches of managing another vendor or the risk of hiring the wrong person. Look, this isn't about convincing you that digital marketing works because you already know it should. This is about having the right person finally build it properly for your business. If you want a predictable pipeline, instead of hoping next quarter will be different, book a strategy call below. On this call, I'll audit exactly what you have now and show you the specific gaps that are costing you serious prospects. No generic advice, it'll be a real assessment of what needs to be fixed in your specific business. Let me show you what happens when you have the right strategy and the right execution. I worked with a legacy cruise business that was completely dependent on partner sales teams. They were paying high commissions and had zero control over their pipeline. Sound familiar? In 90 days, they generated 1,190 serious prospects on a $15,000 monthly budget. That's $37 per prospect for a service with a $24,000 average ticket. Even with a conservative 2% close rate, that's 24 new customers. And at $24,000 each, that's $576,000 in new revenue from a $45,000 budget. Their sales team went from prospecting all day to focusing purely on closing the deals in front of them because they had predictable pipeline. I don't believe in overpromising, so let me show you our actual worst case scenarios. We had a client with no funnels, fulfillment constraints, and tracking issues. Even with everything going wrong, we still generated serious prospects for under $25 each and lifted the revenue 10% in 6 months. So we didn't have the full funnel approach we were going for, but we made do and we still got them results. So even when everything goes wrong, you're still getting consistent lead flow and measurable growth. And if you're just starting out with no data, we use proven frameworks to get you to profitability faster and avoid expensive mistakes most companies make when they're figuring out alone. You don't want to look back 6 months and say, I wish I started then. Now, you're probably thinking this sounds like a big commitment of time, of resources, of all that. Of course you're thinking that. You've been burned before, potentially. You've seen it not work. Maybe you've seen it work, but you haven't been able to replicate it. You've invested time and money into marketing that didn't work, and now you're cautious about committing again. But here's the thing. The cost of staying where you are is higher than the cost of fixing it. Every month that you don't have predictable pipeline is another missed opportunity, or another month your competitors are pulling ahead while you're hoping your sales team can make up the difference. You're also probably wondering, if you don't know me personally, how do I know this person actually knows what they're talking about? Fair question. Most people giving marketing advice have never actually run a real business. They've never had to make payroll or explain to their board why growth stalled. I have. I've managed over 100 million in ad spend, but I've also raised over 500,000 for my own SaaS, and I unfortunately failed because we didn't invest in customer acquisition early enough. I learned the tough lessons the hard way, what happens when you don't get marketing right, so that I can pass on those learnings and pass on the right way to do it to my clients. I've worked on startups launching their first go-to-market campaign, to establish companies scaling existing systems and going IPO. But more importantly, I've been the business owner writing the checks and wondering if they'll work. What's happening with my ad dollars? That perspective changes everything about how I approach your marketing. I know it's an investment. And here's what most B2B companies get wrong. They think they need to be everywhere online doing everything all at once. The truth is, you need to dominate one or two channels really well before you expand. Really learn your customer journey, learn your whole sales process. Make sure you have the right data before you start expanding. Those channels can be, but don't have to be, LinkedIn and Google. Decision makers are real people who consume content everywhere. Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, industry publications, podcasts. We can get creative. While your competitors are bidding up the obvious channels, we find where the prospects actually spend their attention and reach them for a fraction of the cost in a consolidated approach to 1 to 2 channels to start, and then scaling from there. So here's your choice. Keep doing what you're doing and hope next quarter's numbers improve, or finally get someone who understands both strategy and the execution to build your customer acquisition system properly. If you're ready to have predictable pipeline instead of crossing your fingers each month, this conversation will change how you think about growing your business. The strategy call is free. Staying stuck with no predictable revenue is not. Before our call, it's helpful if you fill out the strategy brief so I can review your current setup. I'll come prepared with specific recommendations for your business. Even if we don't end up working together, you'll walk away with our complete system blueprint and tool stack, so you can at least start building the proper tracking and audience data today. I only take a few clients each quarter because this does require real partnership, not just simple management. So if you're finally ready to build this right, book your call now.